Elisa did, that'll never be shown. Nobody will ever believe that. I don't believe that. The biggest unanswered question is Adam, who is back in Australia, was never charged with the death of Zara, and in my mind, probably didn't have anything to do with it, although I still wonder how a man can go 2 weeks in a very, very, very small house and not see your daughter for 2 weeks and just believe that she's in the house and not see her for 2 weeks. In America, I had 4 children, and I came home from work every single day, played with my kids, read to my kids, did their homework, tucked them into bed, fed them, gave them a bath. I saw them every single day. It's incomprehensible to me that you could go 2 weeks in a 900 square foot house and not know that your daughter is not in that home. That was the biggest red flag to me. Secondly, Adam failed a polygraph test. To me, that showed that he had some knowledge of what happened. Now, polygraph tests are not admissible in court, and maybe they're not that reliable, but I put faith in him, and when he failed it, that to me said, you know something about this case. Elisa failed hers as well. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for Adam, everything that Elisa told us about Adam's involvement could later be shown scientifically and by credible evidence was not true. The most important being that he had nothing to do with the disposal of Zara's remains. That was completely done by Elisa. Adam just was not there, and that can be scientifically shown. So to me, that was the best thing going for him. Also, the differences maybe in an Australian male, it had been explained to me that Australian men, the wives do most of the grunt work. Australian men come home from work, they go out with their buddies, their mates, whatever you want to call it, and have less interaction with their children than perhaps fathers in America. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. He certainly fit that bill because he had zero contact with Zara at all. So anyway, we entered into that plea. Elisa never admitted to me that she committed a murder. I understand that she may have had a conversation with Lisa Dubs and admitted to her that she did. She never admitted that to me. We pled guilty, or had her plead guilty, because of the evidence against her I felt was so strong that this was in her best interest, that if she did not take this plea, that the likelihood was that her charges would be upgraded and she could very well spend the rest of her life in prison, possibly get the death penalty, and at the very least, the state was going to try other charges to increase her sentencing level points where she could get 10, 15 years more than the 15 years that was being offered, or I could see from our sentencing worksheet that's what she would receive. So that's where we are today. She is 5 years away from finishing her first sentence, and then she will be transferred to federal court where she'll receive another 10 years. She was 43, so she'll be about 70 years old when she is released from prison. So that's kind of my little quick rundown timeline of how I thought I was involved, some of the reasoning, why I made certain decisions, why we did certain things, interactions with the police or with Mr. Gaither's office. I always felt that if I had to do anything differently, it would have been be more patient, not have to knee-jerk reaction to every time somebody asks me a question. Just let things run its course, let the Hickory Police Department do its job. I really don't believe the Hickory Police Department could have ever solved this case without Elisa's cooperation. We gave that cooperation because we really felt we were cooperating, we were helping, we were a witness to things that Adam had done. Had Elisa told us the truth, the people that she should have told the truth, us being the defense attorneys, if she had said that, you know, she had done these things, if she had owned up to these things, told us the truth, then more than likely we never would have uttered a peep, and I don't know if this case would have ever been solved. So that's my recollection 10 years later. I've kept the file for 10 years. When I was elected district attorney, I had to move out of my law office. I took some files, including Elisa Baker's, most of my murder cases, took it to my home for safekeeping. 2 weeks after I took office on January 23rd, unfortunately our house caught on fire. The entire basement went up, including all of my files, which included Elisa Baker's and all my other files that I was keeping in safekeeping. So that's basically from memory. So the DA's office probably has a copy. Lisa does probably has a copy of the discovery. The federal people probably have the discovery, but I don't. So that's my recollection. If anyone has any questions about anything at all concerning that case, I'd be glad to try to answer it. Yes, ma'am.
So Lisa Dove said that she didn't really think that the cell phone pings were important. Would you disagree with that?
Yeah, actually I do. To me, they could show that Elisa, who was making phone calls to Adam at the time, telling Adam that she was at Target buying a birthday present for Zara, you know, because she's been texting Adam saying, oh, she's sick, she's this, she's that, you know, stay out of her room, she's just really sick right now, or anyway, so she's texting or calling Adam, who is at a construction site in Lake Norman. And so she's using her phone. Now, she's not at Target. She's up in Caldwell County in close proximity to these spots that were all pretty close to each other, within a couple mile radius. Her phone is pinging. It shows that the day she says that they're, you know, dropping off the remains or disposing of the remains up there, it's her phone that's pinging right there at each one of those spots. Adam's phone is pinging down at Lake Norman, okay? Elisa says that she and Adam are doing this together. That's disproven by the phone pings. That's corroborated by all the people who were at the construction site in Lake Norman. So once you can show that she's lying about that she was disposing of Zara all by herself, that's a complete material representation that she was drugged out while Adam did all of this. It just shows a cloud of dishonesty about everything else, and led some credibility to what Adam was saying. Was he was just kind of clueless about the entire thing. Now, they had their, it's possible, and Lisa does a great job in cross-examination, and maybe she could have made some, she could have hurt the credibility or shown that maybe these phone pings weren't exactly at the spots. To me, it was pretty, I try to put my mind in the shoes of a juror, okay? And if I saw that evidence, if I saw the evidence in the home, if I saw a ransom note where there was no reason to write a ransom note that she admitted that she wrote, okay? And we really haven't even touched on all the other evidence that was coming out from other family members about abuse that Elisa was inflicting on Zara. I, as a juror, not as an attorney, I said, this is pretty powerful. And if it turns out that Elisa is the one that's dismembering this child, which means at one point having to put a left hand on a forehead of a dead child while you're sawing a neck, I don't want to take that case to a jury trial. Now, Elisa does a very good job of being able to show doubt in those type of things. That evidence was kind of in its infancy at that point, but the PowerPoint presentation that was in the discovery, it looked pretty conclusive to me that they were going to be able to show Elisa's phone at all those different spots. Okay, and Adam's phone, Lake Norman, so 50 miles away. So I felt, we disagreed on that. I felt that was pretty powerful, and one of the bigger reasons why I felt that she needed to take a plea rather than the district attorney say, hey, that's a material misrepresentation. We're ripping up this agreement, okay? It's null and void, and we're going to the grand jury next month, and you're going to be charged with first-degree murder with aggravating factors. Okay. Is there anyone else? Is this the end of your class? This is the last one? Yes, ma'am.
Why did you guys end up taking the deal? Was it because you guys had the saw, that you decided that you needed to make a deal with the prosecution?
Right.
Because otherwise there was no evidence to say that Elisa had committed the crime.
That's what I'm trying to say. Had Elisa been honest with us, had she just said, Scott, I was so jealous of her, I couldn't stand her, I lost it, I killed her, I dismembered her, I took the body, and I lied to Adam the entire time. Okay? We never would have said a word. We wouldn't have given up anything. Not because we didn't want it solved, but just to represent her, which was my duty. We wouldn't have said anything because I don't think they could have proven anything at that point. But that's not what she told us. Okay? So we thought we could not be heroes by any stretch of the imagination. We thought we could resolve this case, bring closure to the family, find this child, cooperate, be a witness instead of a defendant, because we felt that Adam had done all of these things, and she was willing to testify against Adam, and the way to do that would be to give him this information, be debriefed, testify against him, that the saw was going to have his fingerprints on it, and so that decision was solely made based on her representations to us that she was not involved in any way. In hindsight, we shouldn't have said squat, which is, usually defense attorney rule number one is, don't say anything. They've got to prove the case, and I really think they would not have been able to prove anything. They didn't have a time of death. They would have had no time to know where to take pings. There was a 2-week window. They were all over the place. They were in the wrong county looking. If we had just remained silent, a whole different outcome, perhaps. Now, maybe somebody comes across her bones, maybe somebody comes across her skull, and things would change. And maybe it's best to get the first open door, take it for a sure thing, rather than risk at a later point they build a case. And then she get first-degree murder. So it's all calculated, We got 15 years kind of in the bank, which is not much for what's happened. But in hindsight, maybe it would have been the better course to zip up.
Did you guys feel pressure in other ways? Like they were tearing the house apart at the same time that you guys were looking for other evidence. Was that play a factor in the way you guys went about trying to solve the case?
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, I think, on everybody involved. And we're watching the news, we're reading the newspaper, we're trying to talk to people. What are y'all finding out? Do we need to come up with an agreement? Are you going to find the smoking gun tomorrow? Is she telling us the truth? Are they going to find her at a landfill? And you never know. I mean, it was really day to day what information is coming out. And if they find something out the next day, all bets are off, and we're stuck. So taking a second-degree murder, they've upped the penalty for second-degree murder a lot because of this case, because of this so little time that she got. if you are a prior record level 1, you could actually get as little as 8 years for second-degree murder back then. She got what was called the presumptive sentence, which is 15 years. That's really a slap in the face to Zara Baker, I think, and her family. I think the only thing that made it palatable to the community was the federal charges that added on another 10. But yes, in hindsight, we would have handled a lot of things differently. Is that?
About it.
I'm sorry, I went too long. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.